First of all, thank you guys for coming. I think because we have a nice little intimate group, I'm gonna make this as much as possible interactive as I can, because I also want to get to know you guys and see some of the things that you're doing in your creative lives. When David asked me to do the talk, I was like, oh shit, I don't know what I'm gonna talk about. And then he mentioned the theme of punk, and then I started to kind of think about, creating your own work, and what that means to me is, essentially being as authentically yourself through your creative life as you can. And there's nothing more punk. I mean, if you see with the punk movement and all that in New York and all these different places, it was like these kids basically expressing themselves through music that maybe they didn't even fucking play music that well, right? They were like, amateur musicians, but they were playing the guitar, they were doing all these, singing. And I thought to myself, like, I think we all, when we first take on anything creative, you gotta start from there, right? It's like, you're not gonna be great at something right from rip. And for me, this space that you guys are currently sitting in started as an idea in my mind maybe 15 years ago, right? And I remember watching The Lost City by Andy Garcia, which is not a great movie, by the way, but there was something in it that I felt like, oh, holy shit, this is like a Hollywood movie. There's Dustin Hoffman's in it, right? It's like, it's a Hollywood film, and they're talking about the thing that my grandfather went through. My grandfather was a 9-year political prisoner in Cuba. Talk about being punk. He was plotting to overthrow, he was within a conspiracy group that was trying to overthrow Castro at that time, and they put him in jail. Doesn't get more punk than that. And when I watched this movie, I remember sitting in my couch. It was like 2 a.m, and I was probably like 19, and I felt like a bolt of lightning shot through the top of my skull and into my body. Now, I know it sounds wild, but it happened to me. And I got up from the couch, and I went into my room. I had this room that had no windows. It was like in the center of of my childhood home. And I went in the little closet area there that my brother before me had built, like this little study nook area. And I started writing down like my initial idea for this play. And it was also around the same time where I had like realized that I wanted to be an actor, and I wanted to get into a creative life, because before that, up to 18, 19, I was under the delusional idea that maybe baseball was going to be a thing, right? So I had never had to like think outside the box of what the fuck do I want to do with my life, right? I had always kind of just leaned on that. I'm a baseball player, right? You go to parties and your parents introduce you like, hey, bolita, right? He plays baseball. And you're like, yeah, I guess, and I'm going to do it for the rest of my life and this, that. And so I never had to like think about what it is that I wanted to do. So right around that time, 18, 19, I started to kind of go in that little study nook that I had, and I would start writing like these ideas and like what was really like making me excited. I wanted to live an adventurous life. I didn't want to just live like a life that had security. Now I'm like, God damn it, I need a little bit of security. But at that time, 18, 19, I was like, let's go for it, right? And so I started writing down these ideas. And I bring that up because part of what I would love to do, and I just thought of this now, is like, I want all of us to think about one creative idea that we have that maybe we haven't executed yet, right? Like, is there a project, a creative project that you've had in your mind for a long time, and for whatever reason, you just haven't executed it yet? And if you guys would write it down in your notes, because then I'm going to revert back to it at the end. But just think of a specific project, right? It could be a painting, Adrian. It could be It could be something outside of the thing that you usually do in life, and write down what that idea is. You guys will do that now. So I started to do that with my life. Is like I started to write down my thoughts, and not just my goals, but literally what I was thinking. And Carlos, I know you're a psychologist or a therapist, right? Therapist, psychologist, same thing or what? Yes, sir. Okay, good. But the idea of like, I wasn't connecting my subconscious mind with my conscious mind. I don't know if that makes sense. So when I started to write down my thoughts, I was like, who the fuck am I? Right? Like, I don't know who that guy is. I don't know what those thoughts are. I haven't confronted those thoughts head on. I haven't yet like integrated my shadow self with this thing that I show the world, like who this person that I normally walk around and think I am, and I'm this person and da da da. No, I wasn't paying attention to all of this thing that was happening underneath me. And so when I started writing, and I got that from a teacher that I had at Miami-Dade, I started writing my thoughts down. I couldn't believe what I was reading. I was reading things like, you know, I needed purpose in my life. I felt a certain level of, you know, life was meaningless. I was having like these really kind of, I don't know, I guess existential thoughts about life. And I started to trying to creatively create a life that would fulfill me, that would make me feel some sort of meaning of why I was on this planet. And it sounds fucking crazy, but it is. You know, that's my way of kind of expressing that. And as I did that, I wrote down like very specifically, like, okay, my parents want me to do X, Y, and Z. I want to do, or maybe I would like to do these other things. And I started to like cross out, like just, no, I don't want to be a lawyer at all. I don't want to do the pharmacist, even though it's like, no, you go to school for these amount of days and then you're a pharmacist. No. And I started to X them out. Now, there was things on that list, like being an actor, that nobody in my life was at all. Nobody was really creative in that way in my family. And so when I came out as an actor, because that's kind of what it felt like coming out as an actor, you know, there was some like kind of like, what? You want to do what? But I remember feeling like now I can't die. This sounds so crazy, dude. And as an 18, right, like the naive kind of thing there, but it was like I can't die because now I know what I want to do. And so I go into this creative field, move to New York, and what I realized was like I had grown up in a family of like two siblings older than me, and my household was always filled with people. And when I moved to New York, I knew nobody. I lived in a basement that had a small little window at the top. Hector knows because he went there. And I was sleeping like on an air mattress, and it was fucking cold when it was cold and hot when it was hot, and like it was just not the greatest conditions. But what I realized pretty quickly was that I needed to find a tribe, right? And I needed to find a tribe because that tribe would help, and I didn't know this at the time, but it was more so just like creatively, I need to find like people that I jive with. But what I realize now is like that tribe is what propelled me to be able to write this play. So 19, I come up with the idea, move to New York, become an actor, or I'm struggling actor over there, not making any money at all. Off. These guys always make fun of me. Off Broadway. And eventually, I meet a tribe, right? I meet a group of people who are like down to do theater, and we're all struggling. But then we have a mentor, and this mentor has been doing theater for her whole life. And I found like a creative spirit that I could, one, look up to because she was authentic. You would ask her any question, and you never knew what the answer was going to be. So I knew she was a critical thinker. She was thinking for herself. She wasn't the conventional what you think like a theater artist is going to think like. She was having her own thoughts, and I respected that immensely. And so I started to kind of bounce ideas with her. And she was always a playwright, and she started to guide me through writing this play. She asked me, is there a project that you want to do? I said, yeah, I have this play. Originally, I thought it was going to be a movie, but now, because of my tribe, and that's where the punk shit is like, what do you have at your disposal, right? Okay, I don't have the money to make a movie. I don't even have the clan to make a movie. I have the clan to do a play. And so with that in mind, we start kind of structuring this play, and she helped guide me in that. She saved me years of figuring out the writing process, and I started to work with her with this play, and she was very smart. She wouldn't throw her ideas in there. She'd kind of guide me to make my own way through the play. Like, okay, what happens next? And then, and then what happens after that? And so now, let's say we have a first draft of the play, and this is maybe 5 years after I had that initial idea. Now, once we have that first draft, it's like, okay, we put it up. And we did have a space that was willing to have us put it up on its feet. And we do the first workshop production of the play. Through readings and different things, I'm kind of like simplifying the story. I'm making it more concrete. And eventually we started an Indiegogo campaign, which Hector's still waiting for his poster of the donation that he made. But but this Indiegogo, we raised some money, and now we do the play at a festival. And when we did the play at a festival, it went great. I mean, people came to see it. Andy Garcia's daughters came, which was the original person, I guess, that kind of inspired me to write this thing. So it was really kind of a cool moment for me. So maybe in my late 20s, this is now 7 years after that initial idea. And then, and this is again where the punk shit happens, that play kind of sits. My acting career keeps going. I make some money in acting, and I decide to risk that fucking money, which was a very tough decision at that moment. But again, I was submitting my plays like David was saying. I was submitting my plays to festivals. I was submitting my plays to theaters here in Miami, and all of them turned it down. They never really give you a reason, so I didn't know, but that could have stopped me completely because, these companies that are here in Miami where I think the play will work for sure are turning it down. So maybe it's not, maybe it doesn't work, maybe it's not for me, maybe whatever. But no, I decide to double down, and I take that money that I made from acting in TV and I threw it to our first production of this play. And it goes pretty damn good. From that first production, a lot of things, even today, I'm dealing right now with a challenge when it comes to producing the play that always makes me think, why in the world am I doing this? Like, the amount of stress that it takes to put on something like this, the amount of different hats that I gotta wear, no pun intended, because I'm wearing a hat, but then I think of the original reason why I did this, which was to tell my grandfather's story, and I have audio of conversations that I had with my grandfather when I told him, like, hey, I'm gonna do this play, and I don't know why, like, this play keeps hitting me over the head like a martillo, I say in the thing. And he says, well, it's because, this happened to your grandfather, and you want to let the world know what happened to your grandfather. And I think that's punk as fuck, man. I think that there's creativity and projects and things that live in all of us that we are being called to do, and you can kind of ignore it for some time, but eventually you're just going to have to take the risk. There's no other way to go about it. But there's a practical way to go about um, creating these projects that I think is the other element that a lot of people don't talk about. They talk about kind of like the law of attraction and all of those things, but what are the actual steps that it takes to creating some of these projects? And so in those projects that you guys have that you wrote down, I'm wondering if you guys are down to kind of tell the room what some of those projects are. Because part of, I think, the beauty of this that David does monthly is like you get to meet other creatives, and a lot of times it's kind of like uh, okay, well, thank you, or I come and I'm kind of an observer. But I think like especially that we're in an intimate group, like let's why not talk about some of these projects? Hey, this is a project that I've been wanting to do for a while, and then seeing how the tribe, right, the people in this room can either one help or two just serve as like a, hey, you said you wanted to do that project, right? You said you wanted to do that thing. How's that going? Right? That's something that we do at Cultura a lot. Adrian's always reminded me of some script that I need to write that I haven't finished. And so I think that's central. It's like the tribe. You got to take the risk. And then I think there's another element there of like putting that project in some sort of distance between the moment you think of it to when you think you can make that happen. Like, for instance, an example of mine, I have it written in a notebook, one of these that says, I want to be a series regular on a TV show by 30 years old. And I wrote that maybe 5 years prior to me being 30. And I booked Heels. What was it? It was 2 weeks before my 30th birthday. Now, like that, I have fucking a bunch, man. There's a bunch of things, and Adrian showed me his notebook of like, I have this idea for this creative group and this creative space, and it has all these different things. And so I think there's an enormous amount of power in one, writing the thing down, but then two, making some sort of timeline and placing it somewhere in the future for yourself so that it becomes like a reminder of, hey, this is something that you wanted and this is the time that you set for it. It doesn't have to be like a right now, but it's like a realistic time, and then shooting for it. So who would like to start with what they wrote down? Anybody? Somebody take the risk, dude. Okay,
It's
cool.
been something that's always in the back of my mind. We may have talked about it briefly, but it's been a project I've always wanted to do. I'm not a screenwriter. I'm not a professional when it comes to production or film, but I always had this idea of, in the format of a like short film, just showcasing like the homeless culture, like homelessness, and it comes from a place where it's home because my brother's been homeless on the streets due to his mental health issues a few times, and he has a home, doesn't have a drug problem. My mom is his caregiver. He has a place to stay. So I think there's a stigma that exists, and I'm guilty of it. We see somebody asking, panhandling for money, and it's automatically, solo va a usar pa droga. You're gonna use that for drugs or this or that. You have to like. I feel like with this project, it's my duty to educate people to break that stigma. That hey, maybe that person actually has a loving family, has a home, doesn't have a drug or alcohol issue, but there's some people out there that are struggling to just kind of humanize it, just help through this project to kind of break that stigma. But it's been something that I've had like in my mind to let that live in a format of like a short film to try to like get that out there to kind of like educate people. But it's been like 6 years that I've had that
Are you,
project in my mind.
are you thinking about it in terms of a doc or like a narrative film?
That all I have is like
The
I don't
message.
even have how I want to like translate that message. I just know that I want the purpose of the video is for people to learn that, just to try to bring that stigma of when you come across somebody that's homeless on the street.
Mm-hmm.
To try to maybe to educate people to maybe have a little bit more like empathy when it comes to people that are out on the street. But I haven't thought about if I wanted to live like a larger format, smaller format, how I want to portray that message. It's not like that other short film that I had done, like that I knew and how I wanted to portray the message of what I want. So this is just I feel like I guess I think about it and then I get away from it because I get overwhelmed with how exactly do I want to even portray that or how can I really hit on that stuff? You know, what scenes will people actually so it's like all I have is like that bullet point, but nothing else. So then I just like I'll get to it because it involves so many other things.
Yeah.
And you whatever my other jobs and say that. Of course, it's just like I'll get to it that time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I need it and I'll go back to it.
Yeah.
But I know it's something I do want.
I think for me, like with any project, and just because I'm the one having this talk, I guess, right? Like for that project specifically, I would try and come up with a visual style that you think matches
For
what
some
you're.
reason, when I think of it, black and white. All I think about is the scenes in black and white. And I think of me as playing my brother, like playing that homeless character.
Oh, okay. So it is a narrative, like
So that's
not
how
a
I
documentary.
the ideas of it. But black and white, for some reason, I don't know why. I don't even know why. It's just what comes out in my head when I'm thinking of the idea.
Right, right.
I feel like I'm watching it and it's in black and white, and then I'm playing, and then sitting down. So downtown.
Well, see, so you do have it. But this is what I'm talking about when it comes to writing your thoughts down, because when when they just live up in your mind, we lose them and we lose grasp of them. But if you start writing some of that down, like, okay, it's black and white, um, you know, uh, it's in the corner of a street, and I'm sitting on the street, and how do you look, and what's the visual style of the film besides the black and white? Are there any films that um, tonally match what you're trying to go for? And then you start writing that and kind of building that out so that when you do run into that person who's like, hey, you have anything else that you want? Yeah, I do. Boom, it's this.
Yeah.
But it's being ready for that fucking moment. And trust me, it's hard, bro. I get stuck on scripts all the time and ideas, but at least writing them down, I think will help that out. Yeah, we'll start to just see what you have actually in your mind about it.
Agency rebranded Chapman Partnership for the Homeless.
Okay.
So
I've
one
worked
of
with
the
them before.
things that we don't realize in Miami is that there is a lot of infrastructure to help the unhoused. The question I would ask to make the audience broader is I believe, because of the work that I had done, we're only one decision away from where your brother is.
Yeah.
And that's a scary thought for because the culture of Miami is about hustle and about overcoming whether it's achieving the American dream or overcoming wherever you've come from, but that idea that it is indiscriminate.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like the people who are making it are as secure as one would think. So the whole idea is your one decision away from this situation. One degree of separation.
Of course.
Yeah, and that it could happen to anyone, really. That's the fear of, yeah. Well, with mental health in general, man, like when you talk about your brother's story, like the fact that it's completely can happen to anyone at any point and for no reason at all, except that it's just your time, you know? Are there any other projects?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have something called Meaningful Conversations,
Oh,
and it is conversation circles. And
nice.
it's about difficult topics. It's about helping people deal with their anger. Particularly in today's world, there needs to be a forum where it's safe for people to air out their disagreements, but in a moderated way. So, in other words, to someone who is guiding the conversation. The idea is to feel the other person's pain, to understand the other person's point of view, that there's no right or wrong, that everything has a place, but it's just in understanding each other that we're going to find a way through. So the idea of meaningful conversations is to have in this setting or a community center or maybe even in someone's living room, to have a series of these moderated circles that could be ideally 50 people or so, or at the largest, but it could be 10. It could be us here. And I think I've experienced similar formats and they're so healthy. And it draws people from all ages, all walks of life, and everyone leaves there better than they came.
That's great. And do you want to like record those things or you want them to live kind of in the room?
I think better not to record them because then there's more freedom just to speak
Totally.
freely.
Yeah. I had a, I was part of this Buddhist group slash maybe cult while I was in New York. But one of the things that I loved about what they did was they would have these weekly meetings and people would come in kind of sort of the way we are and they would each talk about what they're struggling with. And that was everything, right? Because you had this support group and people that you're like, hey, I'm dealing with this issue. Like, how do I deal with it? How do I go about it? And maybe it's something that someone's already dealt with. So yeah, I love that idea. Let me know. Keep me posted when that happens. Um, anyone else?
I have a couple thoughts. Like I have a mural at Chapman Partnerships. Like I did one at one of the dorm rooms. Just bring that full circle. But something about the power of writing things down and keeping them in a place where you get reminded about them. And I literally mean writing. I think there's something very primal to the written action of like your hands with either a pencil or whatever, a pen, putting it to paper and like going through that action that is a whole other layer of depth and meaningfulness than just like typing it onto a note in a phone that then gets lost into a cloud into the ether. So I would suggest that hasn't happened already on your end and on anybody. I think you mentioned that you live.
Oh yeah.
I've just seen it in my own life happen countless times that this thing that I write down somehow finds its way into manifestation, even though it wasn't in the way that I originally thought of it back then. So I would that's what stood out to me about what you said. Like put it in writing and then like slap it, post it somewhere like where you don't like walk by it and see it because I think that'll just like make it more concrete every day and you'll draw inspiration from places you won't expect, you won't know, and you can't anticipate, and it'll connect. And you'll be like, okay, now I got it. And but just to answer your prompt, it's actually the way you and I met, Robby, is it's a similar story. It's this thing called the Cubaverse, right? Like you actually gave me that term, but it's this desire to tell really my grandparents and my their exile story, but trace it out through. My vision is to have it play out in 3 chapters. So to have the same actor, ideally the actor that's actually here in this play, the beast, a like a Columbus era Spanish arrived to Cuba, have the one actor play like a role in that story, and then speed it up to the Jose Marti area, so like Spanish independence, and then tell a revolution story is kind of like the third chapter through it, and have like the through line through all those things. I haven't found the through line yet, but I know I want to tell that story because I feel sometimes we tell the Cuban story and there's so much more historical context necessary for you to understand why it got to revolution.
Yeah.
Just revolution. And so that's the idea. Like I remember when I heard that you had written a story in this direction, I wanted to like get together, and then Hector brought you over to the studio, and then to kind of reinforce the clan and the tribe. When you feel people that are moving in a similar direction, you get more inspired by the thing. And I remember that night I went and like dove deeper and wrote 100 index cards in that direction. I'd also recommend index cards. It's like a Spike Lee trip that because the index cards allow you to like move things around and lay them out visually. It's really helped me. But that's a project I want to continue to speak into existence because it's actually the reason you and I met, and then Hector, Junior, David, we all collectively gathered now. But that was I wanted to meet and talk about that, and then it spun out into all the other stuff that we've done. But that's one that whenever I think it matters, like whatever your knee-jerk instinct was when Robby said that prompt, I think listen to that because there's something to that. I think there's something in the ether that's like waiting for you to grab it. And it's not your conscious thoughts and your subconscious thoughts are not always bridged together. But I think that there are nudges and signs from the universe that like listen to whatever those inclinations are, and or at least write them down so that they have a chance to be revisited. Because you won't always have the inspiration to. I'm sure this happens with you all the time, where like you sit down and write, it's just not there.
Yeah.
But then there's times that it doesn't make sense that this is the time that you're inspired, and it's there.
And it's there.
Having the ability to memorialize that to me is just. And there's something about writing something down, and then it coming true. I don't know. I believe that deeply. It's just happened enough in my life to know that that's. So if I can impart anything, encourage.
A big part too is like I said at the beginning, you don't have to be good at any of these things off rip. It could be something you've never tried before, and not kind of censoring yourself from doing that just because, oh, I need the experience or whatever. No, you figure out the experience as you go. Like I didn't know how long it would take me to do this story. I just knew I wanted to do it, and it set me on a path. And that's another big part, is just start. Just start. You'll meet the tribe along the way. If you haven't met them yet, you'll figure out the timeline along the way. You'll adjust as you go. Did you mention what you wanted to do? A project?
Been on
Yeah,
tour and
great.
stuff, the stack of cards, the elastic.
He does, yeah.
So he actually demonstrates how it works for, I think, for the mariachi, one of the movies, about how he had to create the backstory to get to this, and I think it was with Quentin.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah,
I just wanted to deep dive this week on that.
We're trying to.
yeah. You are, yeah.
Those conversations have been discussed amongst our group.
We've circulated that video.
I get on it.
Whose video was it? Quentin Tarantino?
No, it's actually about the Robert Rodriguez.
Okay.
He was on Lex Friedman
And Joe.
and on Joe Rogan and some others. He went on a whole tour of,
Okay.
yeah.
But he uses that technique to
Yeah.
capture the story,
Mm-hmm.
and to capture where the gaps are to be able to move the story. I've done everything but the work. So I've opened up an LLC.
Okay.
I have a brand. I am certified, so I'm a certified yoga teacher. I'm also a Florida Master Gardener. Both those are certifications. I have a Citibank account with my name. And my angle in is to do yoga practices that are garden themed with church ladies.
Whoa.
And so my angle in is nonprofit work.
Yeah.
So that takes some of the stress off. And I've gotten gigs, and now people want to have me travel. So I have one coming up in less than 30 days in Orlando, and then I just got something in Indianapolis next year. And so that's it. So what I wrote down was, okay, how you bring it all together, right? Because they're divergent thoughts that need to kind of come together, be sewn together. And so where I'm going to anchor myself next is doing the guided visualization. So that will either be at the beginning or at the end, and then we'll move into movement.
Wow, that sounds cool. And the thing about it too is very niche. Like it's a very specific thing, but that's always the best.
I think one of the, we have these limiting beliefs. You talk about manifestation. And one of the limiting beliefs is it's not time. Do I mean like either the opportunity passed me?
Yeah.
Do I mean and I didn't catch the bullet train, or there's so much clutter, there's so much going on. Then how do you have an authentic voice? And so those are the things that swirl around this idea, especially because it's interesting. The practice of yoga, which is very Eastern. So I am Cuban Korean, so I'm truly East-West. From a DNA perspective, is that the yoga practice in the West is very masculine. It's very athletic. It's a physical challenge.
Yeah.
Versus in the East, it's a lifestyle. It's a mental state. And so that's kind of where I'm at in that flow.
Whoa. That's very cool. It's very cool. And you're in it already. I mean, you say you have gigs. It's happening.
It's happening, yeah.
Well, congrats.
But my way in is what's worked for me in the past.
Yeah.
Get the education, get the credentials.
Sure.
Create the tribe. Like the idea of going the nonprofit route actually came from an agency gig that I did. I worked for an agency that really wasn't an agency. They were actually an event company. But their way in was to host these galas for nonprofits. There's lots of money and all that.
Yeah.
And then because they had those relationships, they would ask for the business, for the paid advertising part. And I thought that's a very interesting angle, because they themselves as an entity cannot compete with other agencies, because other agencies are creative powerhouses. They are not creative powerhouses. They're more executional. And so I almost feel like my stint there was to kind of see the behind the scenes of how that works.
Yeah.
Which is because I'm all about the money. So that's also very interesting for me. Okay.
Sure. Wow, I love that. Dave, you have anything? Really? Well, you're constantly doing stuff, man. It feels like every day you're sending. But is there one that kind of sticks out to you as
No, there's like too many floating thoughts that I feel like Adrian said at one point. There will be like something that connects the synapse, and it's like, oh, it's all this happening at once. But I mean, I want to do things that involve projection mapping and visualization, right? Like how you bring works that I created or that I'm going to create into an augmented visual reality kind of situation. There's also going the opposite direction, like done so much in the digital and graphic design space that I want to create things that are more in the physical, interior, architectural space. Does that brand or project or experience manifest into physical objects, physical facades? And that those are just things that are just kind of broad at this point, but that's what's floating in my head. And I gotta like do a little more writing to
Yeah, to figure out
like
set design. I feel like you could definitely do set
I
design.
knew there was a venue coming.
That where he could, yeah, where he could practice that. We have a space. We're calling it Casa Cultura, which is going to be a creative space. It's also going to have like a coffee truck adjacent to it, and it'll work as kind of like a hub for us at Cultura Media House as well. So that's what Adrian's talking about. Like it's a perfect, venue to start to kind of try his hand at what that would look like. I mean that whole front end also was designed by David. If you guys saw like La Pared de Hoying everywhere, that was David designing that. So
where's
it's gonna be on 67th Avenue and 18th Street.
Yes.
Yeah, Southwest Miami. Yeah, yeah. Junior.
Um, yeah, that's kind of like full circle too, I guess. Because yeah, full circle.
Look at that.
Pun intended. Much like Robby's story, I was raised to basically be a baseball player and graduate from what high school and college. That's it. Like, what degree, what specialty? Just bring me a degree. It didn't really matter because I would have been the one to go furthest. And I mean, I did, but then after, what the hell do I do in my life? Because baseball was for the family and it was just like a trajectory and whatever. But Adrian has a painting in the reception area that says "Músico, poeta y loco," and that was a phrase that I always heard as like a negative thing, but it was also everything that I gravitated towards, like internally. I always felt like a músico, poeta y loco, even though I was taught to be all these other things, more of a rigid system and upbringing. Uh, and then I hit a low point in like 2019, and after that low point, I kind of started tapping into myself. Who am I, and what am I trying to do, and what makes me want to live? Like I have this life. What do I want to do with it? And that's when I started tapping into the músico, poeta y loco. This is who you've always been. So I started looking into the arts and things that I always say, there's art in your heart, there's a space and a place for you somewhere. So I was tapping into the art in my heart, and Robby had this play 3 years ago at the Westchester Cultural Arts Center. It was the first time I ever saw theater of any sort because, again, they'll take you to any park or any arena or any sporting event over a play or a concert even. Films, we go to the movies, but films, like, those indie film, es cosa de loco, güey. Nothing more than loco, nothing bigger. So, my first play really was seeing him, and his brother-in-law is a childhood friend of mine. Um, his wife's family I've known for the longest, so that's what brought me to the play. It was a tribe bringing me towards a certain vibe here. And it inspired the hell out of me for me to just go like full artist mode. Uh, so much so that literally a couple months after that, I moved to Chicago and I started pursuing my artistic passion, which has always been like acting, the more comedic acting, improv, sketch. And I did my research and I was like, this is where I need to go. This is where I need to be. And I did my, I paid my dues there. even further off was Broadway and everything possible, every stage possible was as far off as possible, but I was a fly on every wall, and coming back that bigger and inspired me to revive the tracks we tried, and that's what plugged me into Cultura, and project wise, it inspired me to even come up with ideas that I would have never come up with. And on a wall, I wrote two pages on a wall, that how I look at myself, and then the checklist that I would love to hit. Then I wrote one page that says actor, comedian, host, producer, performer, because I think it's important for you to know how to present yourself, because then there's always, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, everything. I got you, man. And now, giving yourself a title, giving yourself a place, being able to walk in your own two shoes, uh, it's important. It's important because then you know where you're going. And then the other sheet is kind of where you're going. So it's a bunch of different lists, and project-wise, I love to write my own one-man shows, my own specials. Not necessarily so much stand-up because it's more theater, more one-man show, variety show because of the way my brain works, a lot of floating ideas, so the way of connecting like that. But um, because of joining this crew, because of everything that Robby's done, surrounded by Adrian's art, Davis Creations, everyone that gets injected in the group. Hector is a freaking wizard since day one, and I've always been a big fan of his, both musically and graphically or design wise and stuff, because I would see him on stage and then see his work that he would do behind closed doors. And to be surrounded by all of this, and then the projects that we've been tackling and all that, it's been hella inspiring. So much so that I've literally woken up in the middle of the night at 3 o'clock in the morning and written 4 pages to the special. So I have 3 specials that I'm currently working on that I just get hit with random bursts of creativity and inspiration and all that, because of the clan, the tribe, and everything. So that's what I got going on. That's what brought me to this, to here. So thank you for everything, man. And David, thank you for joining us here today, man.
Carlos?
First of all, I didn't realize we went by Robby. So
Well, who knows these days? It's up for debate. Robby is a childhood name, and then it's followed me to adulthood. So.
You think it's a Robby without a hat? Robby.
That's funny, dude. Okay, yeah. Just go with it. Yeah.
what I through I believed in, writing things down for years, and I think a big part of it is that number one, when you see it, it becomes real, and your brain subconsciously goes, "Oh shit, it's real." Now you have to do it, and then there's this law of attraction process too, where
Yeah.
writing things down is a process of letting something go instead of holding on tight. When you hold on tight to something, it usually won't happen because law of attraction is, if you think about it in relationships, you hold on to somebody too tight, the first thing they want to do is you get away. So writing it down is like, kind of like, let's just see what happens and letting that go. The trajectory that I'm on right now, and I have kind of a self-deprecating sense of humor, so I have a post-it note on my mirror that says, "You've been old since 26." I've always I had this complex with age and aging, especially in the music realm. I'm in these opposite worlds where in the therapy space, the older the better, and with music, traditionally, the younger the better, right? Now I'm coming into my own with music at a time where I'm past the music capsule. So there's a saying, or there's a concept in music where around the age of 38, people create a music capsule, which means after 38, they stop taking in new music. They only live in what they grew up on. That's what sounds good to them. So I'm kind of way past 38 at this point, and a lot of the stuff I've done in my life has been punk. Even the way to therapy, you know.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, go see Cardos, but you gotta get ready to get your ass kicked. You know what I mean? Like he's not gonna be like, and you know, you've been, David's been like kind of my therapist throughout this whole trajectory. I think we've been working together for quite some time. Remember the two Instagram accounts? Should I have two? One for therapy and one for music? Yeah. But I don't want people to see the other. Like, it needs to be two separate identities. We've been through a lot. Eventually we're just like, oh, it's whatever happens, happens. And it's worked out really nice. And now that things make sense, now the really scary part begins because I have to take a step back and say, you know, you've been saying you're too old for music since 26. So you've always been too old. So that's why when I read that, I kind of laugh. I go, yeah, you've been old for a while. But it's a reminder to the mission I'm on right now is to, if I'm going to write music, I need to do a couple of things. One that I've done already, thankfully for being so busy in the music scene, it keeps me around younger people and it keeps me around younger music. So that box is checked. And I'm liking a lot of new music that my contemporaries are like, what the fuck?
Right.
Yeah. So that part's checked. And now it's about writing music that holds true to my style, my soul, the way I sing. But it's something that has a vintage kind of sound, but in a modern way. But the thing, before I do any of that, where I stand today in front of all of you, me being super vulnerable right now, is getting out of my own way with the age thing. Because it hasn't worked for me up to this point. Again, I've been saying since I was 26, it hasn't worked for me. So now I just gotta like embrace wherever I'm at, because that's gonna be the doorway to be my most creative self.
Yeah.
And because you mentioned self-limiting beliefs, and it like hit me like, because that's the biggest self-limiting belief, and it's so weird because I'm at a point in the music scene where, you know, if I can just, it's gonna sound braggy, and I apologize ahead of time, but I'm at a point where people like look up to me, and younger musicians reach out to me, and they need advice, and they, you know, I find musicians to open up for me so that they can have a stage and space, and I'm at, so it's ironic that I'm at that point, but yet I'm dealing with the most self-doubt. You know, so, and if they knew, like if these, I can tell them kids, these younger musicians knew, dude, this guy can fall on stage, but I've fallen plenty of times. Like, this guy can fall on stage, but it's back up, and we fuck, like, this guy's a fucking rock star of Miami, like, you know, I've been called Bruce Springsteen of Miami, I've been called, like, you know, like, this guy, man, anything can happen to this guy on stage, and he'll be fine, and here I am, you know, so
I mean,
that's what I wrote down is, you're gonna have to let that shit go if you're gonna be your most creative self.
That's the realest thing too, man. Like I never felt more self-doubt than I did when I was doing the best in my field, you know? And I think that's something we're gonna run into all the time. It's messed up because at the beginning you feel doubt because you don't have the experience, and then after you feel doubt because you have the experience and you know all the things that can go wrong or how, you know, how hard it is to do whatever that is that we're doing. So yeah.
So, man, real quick, when I moved to Chicago, it was my first time ever doing any performing arts. I was surrounded by everyone that theater kids, left and right. I was 36, 34 years old when I moved. Everyone was 18 to 27. 27 is the sweet spot where everyone gets plugged for TV and movies. I didn't give a fuck about age at that point because I said, what am I here to do? I'm here to be a vessel for exactly what I'm supposed to do. So fuck that age thing, because I'd rather go to some concerts of 60, 70-year-old people because I know the quality and stuff is going to be there, because my passion is pouring through, and it's over anything else. It's their purpose. So as long as you're just a vessel for exactly what you're supposed to do, fuck that age shit. Thank you.
Punk. Punk as fuck, dude.
Yeah.
Heck.
Well, one thing I'll tell you too is a saying I love to live by. You probably hear it. The beginning of my podcast is like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I know I'm doing it really well. Like, I think as long as you're all right with that, and you just stay on that course, and like,
That's what you're saying.
you know, we're always gonna feel that whether we're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, but you're doing what it is you want to do. So one thing that which is ironic, because it's like you're talking about writing things down, but for me, it's like I know once I write it down, like you said, it's like, oh shit, like now it's on the paper, like you can't bitch out. But one thing I recently wrote down that I was like, all right, I gotta write it down if I want it to happen is like, which funny enough was inspired by like everything we got going on, but also this play and like seeing how your idea years ago, obviously it took a long time, but has gotten to this point. Is kind of just tapping back into like even what you mentioned, like uh that bridge of like your younger self and like where we are now, and going back to like writing. So like I want to write a script, whether it's an original idea or collectively something that we come up with. But going back to like, we used to make videos in my backyard just for like fun, and we thought it was like amazing.
They were, dude.
Maybe 10 people saw it, just doing it for the love. So now, kind of like going back into that, of merging it with, all right, now we're all at a point in our lives where our brains are a little more developed, so the ideas are gonna be a little more. We could actually not take them down on YouTube. But I think now like we're at a place where I feel we can write something, and I feel like that whether it be, and also we've unlocked the other side where we always thought, okay, if we come up with something, we have to see it all the way through. Like even with your plays, like you didn't know it was gonna be this, but eventually it turned into this. So like maybe we come up with something and now we sell it. It doesn't mean we gotta do it,
Mhm.
but just I want to have like a tangible idea that could live out in the world that we came up with it from our heads. And I feel like now is a time where like uh I guess we every day you think like your life is because you live it every day, so it's like normal. But there's certain things that are all unique to us, our experiences, how we grew up, our humor. Like I think there's something that I don't know what that something is, but I feel like there's something that's just been in my head of like, okay, like we can write something, we need to write something, let's write some idea that can live out there. So that's always been brewing.
Script.
Script.
Okay. Oh, man.
I have a lot of ideas, a lot, and it's always a challenge of like which ones do I pick, which ones do I drop, which ones like do I actually like follow through. This one came to me at 3:30 in the morning after I had a nightmare, and I just like I don't know how I ended up thinking about this. I wrote it on my phone, so I actually didn't. When I pull up my phone, when you said to write it, that and I opened my notes. That was the note that was open. I was like, oh wait, I actually wrote
It's there.
this. I didn't have to write it.
Yeah.
But it is. I recently got off Instagram like 3 months ago. It was too much for me. I wanted
God
to
bless. Yep.
be more present.
I get it.
And but the hard side is that like I still want to be in touch with like the events happening. Like what is people putting out there. Like I also want community. I want to connect with people. And particularly, I want to connect with um, folks who have interests around social justice, mutual aid, and and community. Like I think that I, I, I think that with the political context right now, we tend to be alienated and or that's the way it's been pushed and um, now more than ever, we need to build these intersectional communities of multiple oppressed groups that are going to be more and more to like come together, not necessarily through activism, but like having fun too, events or like theater, like like. So the idea is to have a space that's not Instagram, where very localized, like Miami, South Florida, where you get to see all of these events, either activism or a cleanup or a theater play or a party or a protest or whatever it is. So like a centralized space for that. You don't have to depend on Instagram to learn about. That's the idea. Yeah. And the biggest takeaway that I take from this right now is like the importance of finding your tribe. And because it all lives in my head and I'm like very self-taught and I can like go ahead and develop the app. I think I can do that, but it really doesn't come down to like find tribe and get resonance.
Yeah. And then to that point, like, okay, it's because people sometimes think when I join a tribe, I have to kind of lose my own identity, or like a part of me has to kind of, die so that I can join this group and coexist. But I think it's quite the opposite. Like when the tribe really works, it's because everybody is authentically who they are as is. O sea, there is no, I don't have to have the same ideas as you. I don't have to have the same even opinions as you. And sometimes that'll even actually help the projects that come out of the tribe, because you get confronted. And if I say something and then you say, no, well, blah, 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 and now you make my idea better, right? So the idea is to form that tribe, but not feel like you have to lose any form of individualism because you joined this tribe. And what I love about what everyone has kind of stated, it's very unique to each one of you, And I think the more we follow that intuition of what those things are, what is that intuitive calling you towards? Whether it's a project or whatever it is, it becomes real. It's tangible. It's not just fucking ideas. We talk about the imagination shit. It's like, yeah, it's imagination shit, but I know everybody in this room, except Hector, because I knew him from before, because of the imagination shit, right? Like it's a very real thing. There's real tangible things that happen because you follow your intuition and your imagination. And so, I don't know, with that, I think that concludes my TED Talk.
No, I have a question. Tell
Yeah.
us about the play. Tell
Okay,
us what happens in this.
Yeah, the play is an immersive theater play, so the play takes place all around the audience. Like you that are sitting there, there'll be actors that are going to walk behind you. There's going to be a scene that happens there in the jail cell, in the middle here in the office, and on the stage. The play goes back and forth between a Cuban prison in 1962 during the missile crisis and an American radio station in Miami, and the play goes back and forth between both. In the prison, there is a family who is being pitted against each other by the Cuban Revolution in order to kind of divide and conquer. So one of the members of the family, one of the brothers, created a poster of Che Guevara dressed as a woman. And at that time, it was a way to, to mock the establishment at that time. Again, punk as fuck. And they bring in, the warden of this prison brings in his older brother to interrogate him in hopes that his older brother will break him. She also brings to the prison his younger sister, which is the one that officially breaks them eventually. And this younger sister, well, I don't want to give away too much, but essentially that is the setup of the play. And then the American radio station is playing through that radio station, radio in the prison. So that little small radio that's on that table right there is playing the American radio station. And eventually there's a phone call that's made from the prison to the American radio station, and that's how the two worlds collide. Yeah. Yeah, I would love for you guys to come yeah. Oh, you do? Okay, cool. Yeah, the city of Doral has been very helpful. We haven't gotten the support that we've gotten from anywhere else. And that is another point. It's like, at the beginning, you might not get the support that you think is going to come. But if you keep just showing up and doing the work, eventually people help you push that boulder up the hill. But from the gate, nobody's gonna do it. Hey, I need help with this. I need to move this thing up the mountain. No. Oh, I'm sorry, man. I got to. But if I start pushing that thing up and they see me struggling and I'm trying my hardest, now the community goes and says, okay, how can we help this guy? So I think that's an important part of all of these ideas is like once you start, it feels very like you're alone, right? You're the only one doing it. But eventually tribe, you start to build this kind of clan around you that is going to help you fulfill that mission.
Any tips on finding the tribe?
Showing up, man, like you did today. I think everyone that you see in front of you, very open people, creatives. I think you found one, man. If you're looking for one, because we're constantly having events and having these kind of talks, like we do them within our own company, and kind of coming up with ideas and things we want to do. So, yeah. I think that's the main thing is showing up and meeting people like you're doing already. Is this the first talk you've come to of Creative Mornings or no?
Second.
Huh?
The second.
Second. Okay, cool. What was the first one?
Was last Rosie?
Rosie. Yeah, so coming to these kind of events is everything, man. It's everything. Any other questions from anyone?
You find your tribe wherever you want to go because they want to go there too.
Right.
So you're going to be in places with people that want to be there too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's literally just showing up more places that you want to be. You see something like this, so you think of anything, search it, go to it. You have a bad experience, you might have a bad experience with your own family at a family party or something too. So you took that risk. You never know what pays off.
Yeah, it's a risk in itself, right? Trying to find that tribe, like but I think if you follow that passion that you have, you'll eventually find those people, that are willing to take that on with you.
Yeah, to wrap it up, I think it's always about, for me, my journey was going to events and seeing what's happening in the city and discovering it. You go to a number of those like networking events that are the same thing and everyone's just pushing their business cards at you and it's like not. You can tell that there's some that feel inauthentic.
Yeah.
And there's some that you happen to come across other people that have genuine kind of interest in meeting other people and sharing their ideas. And it does take a little bit of that sifting and finding like, all right, this is more of the kind of people I want to be around and the kind of environment. It's kind of like you just got to go through a little bit of that sifting period and then you'll keep finding, the ones that gravitate towards you and vice versa.
It doesn't happen on your couch.
No.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Coming and not the with you.
Yeah.